Hi, Lauren. Welcome to the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast.
Hi, Julia. Thank you so much. It really is such a great opportunity to be chatting to you today and to finally meet you virtually in the space and not see you just on the other side of my Facebook screen or my real screen.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. I was equally delighted when I saw you on the schedule. So I'm excited to dive into what you've been doing and kind of what you can offer the listeners from your unique perspective. So what I would love to do to start is if you could share with the listeners what you're currently doing in the health and wellness space, maybe how you got started. Have you always been doing this? And then we'll get a little bit into the niche that we're going to talk about as far as your forte.
Okay, great. So I wish I could say that I knew what I wanted to do, one of those people who was like, I want to be a wellness consultant when I was 18. It wasn't like that at all. I studied at university. I did the economics and psychology degree. And then I went into the corporate space for 10 years, predominantly in the UK. And about 8 years in, I fell in love with a couple who wrote a book called Fit of Food. They really looked at whole food nutrition, and my friend and I started doing exercise fitness with them. And I went to an open day at a college called the College of Naturopathic Medicine. And there was a woman who did a talk on cancer prevention. Obviously as integrative practitioners, we can't say that we treat, cure, or diagnose disease, but the work that she did in the cancer space was healing the body at a deeper level. This was all completely new to me, really completely foreign to me, but just, studying food as medicine and seeing how powerful what we put into our body is in terms of how we feel and ultimately how we look is kind of how my journey started. So I went to my boss and I started studying naturopathic medicine part-time. And in that time, I wish I could pinpoint exactly when it was, but I found Dr. Cabral's podcast in about 2018. And I kind of listened to him. And I would say there's two really big passions in my life. One is the power of health and what we put into our body, from stress and toxins and everything that we learn as integrative health practitioners. But also, Dr. Cabral says, change your body, change your life. I am a complete mindset junkie, and I've worked with mindset coaches because I truly believe that if we don't change our mind with any behavior change, we'll never change. So learning, how the mind works and how powerful our mindset is in terms of, changing our mind to change our behavior, to change our body, to change our life. Those are kind of, I would say, my two biggest passions. So I eventually then, after doing a fair amount of mindset coaching, also with a woman in Boston, funnily enough, it seems that all my gurus are in Boston. I then, Dr. Cabral then launched the Integrative Health Practitioner certification. So once I qualified in naturopathic medicine as a nutritional therapist, I decided that integrative health was the best of, putting everything together, including obviously two of our mindset modules. So I completed level 1 at the beginning of 2019. And I launched my business, Lauren Davies Wellness, first in the online space, running kind of a 21 days to feel amazed challenge, which is based on a functional medicine detox, but without the supplementation. I live in South Africa, and health in general in our country is quite far behind, which is both a massive opportunity as well as, I'm trying to think of the right word, not a hindrance, but it can be quite frustrating because I want all my clients to use, EquiLife's products and to do the detox, but that stuff's like gold for me. But definitely a huge opportunity getting into the space, and now especially doing integrative health practitioner level 2, where you then kind of take, the mindset stuff, you understand the whole de-stress protocol, and you be able to look at the numbers. That's the kind of long-term goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think being somewhere where it's not super prevalent as far as, top of mind to people, or the resources aren't great. Like you said, it's a great opportunity for you to kind of bring this knowledge to people, but it can also be challenging to kind of like break through some of those norms and really just access to this information that people are like, well, what are you talking about? What is a health coach? I interviewed Andrea Johnson a few weeks back, and she's in the UK, and she said that it's a challenge there because people just kind of like don't get what she's doing necessarily because it's not super prevalent yet. But I think, like you said, if you kind of look at it as an amazing opportunity to kind of be a pioneer in this space there, it could really be that. So that's great. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think it can be really challenging. And also, Dr. Gavral speaks about Western medicine model that they treat sick care. And we work very much in the preventative and supportive space. So we ideally don't want to get sick before somebody comes to us. We want them to come to us, to support their health. And I think that whole shift is huge, because people are like, well, why am I going to spend money on my health when I feel fine, even if they don't really feel fine? Which I suppose is why, my business and my background is most of my clients do come to me for weight loss. But as we know, when you focus on the foundations that support wellness, then weight loss almost becomes a benefit. So clients will come to me with a weight loss goal, but they'll leave with so much more, because we look at the person in every level: exercise, movement, stress reduction, toxicity. But, the kind of what's going to give you the most bang for your buck in the beginning is getting people to eat correctly and to follow the basic foundations that support, digestion and anti-inflammatory nutrition and blood sugar regulation and hormone balance. And doing that for kind of almost over 85% of people is great. But I think the challenge is that it is very, very new. And also the demand in South Africa is very small. The supply of products is very small. So it is a slow burning candle, but it's starting to evolve. It really is starting to evolve. People are starting to become more aware of it, especially from, an integrative approach.
Yes. And unfortunately, I think as human beings, we're always, or a lot of us are motivated by those vanity reasons, right? And so it's not until like you could kind of feel crummy, but as long as you look good, it's easy to overlook. But it's not until, the weight starts to pile on a little bit or our skin changes, and then it's like, oh no, now I need to do something. But like you said, that's the opportunity where that the way they're going to get their weight loss goals met is if they actually change foundational stuff. So then you're able to give them more than they even know they ever could get. And that's the kind of the beauty of what we do. So a lot of, oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think one of my private clients that I'm currently working with, she started in my group doing a 21-day elimination. And she kind of said, she was very resistant in the beginning, as a lot of our clients are. And because, change is hard. But she said to me she didn't realize how off track she was. And often coming back to kind of mindset, being aware of what we're doing, we get so caught up in our unconscious patterns of behavior that until you there's a saying that I love, which is, you only know how good you can feel when you stop doing the things that don't make you feel so good, because you get into the cycle. Mm-hmm. Poor sleep, poor nutrition, you wake up, your blood sugar is all dysregulated. So you reach for sugar, reach for caffeine, you're constantly snacking. And I just think the power of nutrition is so, so powerful, and being able to strip everything back and learn the basics will really get you such a long way.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So on that note, I'd love to shift to the mindset piece, which I know is clearly a passion of yours, as far as like your own personal development, but it's what you will also love to instill and bring to your clients. So what is it about mindset that kind of feels like it's one of the most important aspects of getting well, staying well, kind of taking the first step, in your opinion?
So I honestly think that it is the most important foundation for any change we want to make, because, change is hard, and anybody can get fundamentally, if we look at the diet, the de-stress protocol, it starts with diet, because without food, we would die. Okay, without sleep, we would die, and et cetera, et cetera. But ultimately, at a very foundational level, a first principle level, we would die if we didn't eat. And I think, what I was going to say is as hard as change is, anybody can buy a diet, anybody can follow a diet, but the reason why you hire a coach is for the support and accountability. But what we need to be able to do is understand why we are choosing certain behaviors, and be able to be aware of our patterns that we're consistently implementing and the direction that they're moving us, and start to change those. And that requires a deep level of awareness and attention and deliberate reinforcement, which I think is one of the hardest things to do. So, I work on the three words: simplicity, consistency, and results. Those are like my three key drivers around human behavior change, because you have to come back to what you're wanting to change every single day and reinforce it in your mind, because only once you change your mind will you change your behavior, and then, you'll change your body and you'll change your life. But mindset is fundamentally probably my biggest passion. And then obviously, food is my, they're kind of like on the same level, because I love food. I love everything about food. I come from a foodie family. It's probably why I spent most of my, from the age of 10 up until 28, 29, quite overweight. And that's been my journey. But, mindset is at the heart of change. And I love quotes. I post quotes every day. I do a mantra every day. And my clients start to say, I hear Lauren in my head, like all the daily quotes. But mindset is definitely a huge passion, because that's where I do believe any single change we want to make, that's where it starts, is in our mind.
Yes, of course. And the truth is there's so much information out there. Like you said, anybody can give you a diet plan. Anybody can look at a diet plan. But why is it, if you put nutrition guidelines in front of 5 different people, and, supplement boxes in front of 5 different people, or a detox in front of 5 different people, why are they all going to have different experiences? Why is one going to look at it and go, I can do this? Somebody else is going to be like, I could never complete this. Or why do they quit halfway through? And it has nothing to do with the product, right? Because the product's the same, but there's something else that's kind of interrupting it, right? And so that goes into mindset. It goes to self-belief, limiting beliefs, the ability to kind of even just commit to something. I think so many people have issues with commitment. I hear all the time from clients, well, like, how long is it going to take? I'm like, well, it's going to take as long as it's going to take.
How long, if only we had that answer. How long will it take me to lose 10 kilograms or 10 pounds? Well, how long is a piece of string? How adherent are you going to be to the process? I think is probably one of the biggest factors too.
And how are you going to look at the process? Because how we enter a process, or how we approach it, also depends on how long is it going to take. Are you absolutely thrilled to death, thinking that it's the most wonderful opportunity you've ever had to change your health and your mind and your body? Or are you worrying about how long it's going to take and dreading the process? Well, then your body's probably not going to respond as well, which means it's probably going to take longer. It's the mindset shift and focus around whether, like you said, anything, but in our space, it's getting well. And a lot of times we see that clients who, only make it so far with their symptoms being resolved, we almost always acknowledge there's got to be something else, whether it's, emotional, mental, that's holding you back. And whether it's just adhering to certain recommendations, but also it might just be that they don't truly believe they can get well. And our body, the quote, I'm going to definitely missay it, but I believe it's that our body responds to, do you know what I'm about to say? You look like you might know. Our body responds to what it thinks, and not what we do, or it actually responds to our beliefs rather than what we are doing. So if we're eating salad and our belief is, I'm never going to be a healthy weight, I don't deserve to feel good about my body, then the body actually takes that, right? Forget the salad. It might as well be a cheeseburger, because that's the message the body's getting, versus a different message, and maybe food that's not as healthy, and does one actually outweigh the other? I don't know. But it's the mind controlling so much of it.
Yeah, I think, there's so many people in the mindset space. There's Joe Dispenza. There's that quote, thoughts become things. And Joe speaks about brain neuroplasticity. And I just think that you won't change your behavior until you change your mind. You really won't. And as you say, you almost have to be enthusiastic about the process. And I think James Clear speaks about, fall in love with the mundane. Like, I think we make change a lot harder than what it actually is. We put a lot of drama in it, and we spend a lot of time in the past. And I think what you mentioned about our self-limiting beliefs, some of us don't know. We have this idea of how we will feel when we get somewhere. But then when you get there, you're like, I know for me, I always had a goal weight in mind. For example, I always said when I got to X kilograms, X pounds, I would be happy with my body. I will say when I got to X pounds, I was like, oh, like I'm actually not quite there yet. I think that's what keeps us evolving and changing. But I think we put a lot of focus on the end result when we need to actually focus on the process. And I think human behavior, instant gratification. We have to become masters at delayed gratification, because one choice in isolation, doesn't actually matter. When you say like this one won't hurt, or I'll try again tomorrow, in isolation they don't. But the accumulation over time means it does. But I kind of lost my train of thought. It's like, does what I want now get me what I want most? Is what we have to keep coming back to. Like I say to my clients, I journal every single day. The patterns of behavior that I repeat consistently, I don't put in my journal. We know what we don't need to do. Mm-hmm. We know what we don't need to do. That's often the best place to start. And we have to, again, come back to our why every single day and fall in love with boredom and get excited about it. Because if we follow the process of change consistently, you can only get results. But if we keep coming back to those same patterns of behavior over and over again, and then you kind of like, when you go in that moment where you like want to go and have the second helping, or where you want to go and have a mindless snack, it's like, then you're like, oh, well, I'll just do it again tomorrow. You have to reinforce the belief in yourself. And I think that's the power of why I think there is, if you don't change your mind, you'll never change your behavior, in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah,
or you'll go back to where you were before.
Yes. Yeah. And you might change in the short term, but then things kind of backslide and you end up right back where you believe deep in your subconscious thoughts you belong, versus, where you've gotten to. And the whole thing about like that destination happiness of when I'm, 50 kilos, or when I'm 120 pounds, I'll feel better, or then I'll be happy. Then I'll be able to love my body. Our bodies truly change best when we love them exactly where we are at. You might have 100 pounds to lose, but there's a reason why you're 100 pounds overweight, and finding that reason. And, because maybe it's that you were overeating. Okay, why were you overeating? Maybe it was a protective mechanism for you to deal with things that were going around you in childhood. Thank your body for finding some way of bringing you comfort in really challenging times. We can always find something to be grateful for. Our bodies will typically react to some sort of, whether it's stress, trauma, stimulus, something, in a way to protect us. It doesn't necessarily mean it serves us long-term or it's healthy, but it was a coping mechanism. Your body allowed you to cope in a really difficult, dark place. Thank your body. Love yourself and love your body for keeping you alive and keeping you comforted in that time. However, this is no longer serving me. I no longer need to, completely push down feelings with food, and I'm going to now find something that serves me better where I'm at. So love yourself in that moment where you are the worst version of what you want to be before you can, go forward, because we can't shame or hate ourselves into better health. I'm a true believer of that. It's really hard to do that. Our bodies our cells do not respond well.
I think, you touched on something that's quite that resonates well with me, or very deeply with me, because over the course of my own journey, I've bought every diet under the sun. I went on waitlist when I was 10 years old. I, have got files of different programs, but ultimately, until you address what the deep underlying emotional connection to food is, that's what it is. Because no diet is going to take that away until you look at the mind that's driving your behavior.
Yes.
So I think that's, that is such an important connection. And 95% of my clients have got an emotional connection to food or disordered eating patterns, but that's what you need to address. It's actually not the food. And I think you say we can't beat ourselves into change. We can't shame ourselves into change. I can't look in the mirror and be disappointed by how I look because it's through my own choices. And that's why there's such, wellness is, I'm so passionate about helping my clients to kind of deal with the way they even approach food. And I mean, I've walked so many different paths. I've done macronutrient tracking. I've done, all sorts of eliminations and detoxes and all those kinds of things. But just kind of listening to yourself and being aware of your patterns and understanding why we turn to food for comfort, for instance, or, those triggers for us is a huge part of the journey. And I think even if people do come to me with a weight loss goal, even by becoming more aware of their behavior, they become more connected in many other areas of their life. Food never lets us down. Food never lets us down. And dopamine in food, alcohol and food spike dopamine in our brain in the biggest way. So there is a physiological reaction too. But again, the more balanced we become over time and the more aware we become of our patterns and the more we practice consistency through, some of the foundations like, having a smoothie for breakfast and eating 3 meals a day and spacing your meals out and getting enough sleep and those kinds of things. I think it's all just amazing how it can come together.
Yes. Yeah. And the truth is whether or not we kind of have like the foundations of the nutrition in place first, or whether we have the mindset in place, at some point they have to merge. And in order to get lasting change, because I know lots of clients who come and they understand the food better and then we do the mindset after, or mindset first and then we do the food after. But at some point they have to kind of be both handled properly to continue with the progress, right? Because I always say food is in my opinion, the hardest addiction to quit, because you can put down alcohol and never drink it again. You could never smoke another cigarette. You could completely walk away from drugs. Any addiction is much better controlled when you just wipe your hands clean of it and you're done. However, food, you have to eat for the rest of your life. So it has to become a relational type of mindset where you understand what your triggers and patterns are and so on and so forth, so that you can continue to eat well and eat to live for the rest of your life without, constantly replaying these patterns. I think it's the hardest one to get a healthy relationship with, because you can't just walk away from it.
Yeah, and I think what I was kind of with, I lose my train of thought when I'm chatting, but 95% of my clients have got that emotional connection to food. So the 5% who come to me where their diet's terrible, but like they're like, oh, I can have one block of chocolate, not eat the whole slab. Those are the clients where you like, this is what we're going to do. I mean, I've had clients before who've come to me on a 12-week program who've done exactly what I said with no, like none of the drama, none of the, that's not that it's drama, but, they don't have that emotional connection. They are few and far between, so it's like you're losing the 1% of body weight every single week. So 12 weeks, 12 kilos, 25 pounds, done, gone, maintain it, whatever. Like they're very rare, a very rare.
They're the easy ones.
As you say. They're easier and they don't come around that often. But, you're right. Food is, because it gives us life and most of us use it, it is comforting. I mean, food is amazing. And I've had to change, I used to be like a very, very big on protein, would never let myself get hungry. But it's all just small shifts and rebalancing your body and understanding that food is nourishment and we will eat again. And, sometimes we have to master delayed gratification. A lot of people in the industry right now are speaking about, you've got to become a master of delayed gratification, because if we constantly choose what we want in the moment, generally those things we want in the moment are not the things that are going to get us the long-term results. So,
yes.
We can do it, but there's another saying that I love is we are what we do consistently, not occasionally. And what I try and kind of coach my clients on is, instead of, I have clients during COVID who a bottle of wine a night, emotional trauma leads us to have our own triggers, food, alcohol. So in the beginning, my business took quite a hit because health is a luxury. In our minds, we know it's the number one investment, but, when people are going through trauma or losing jobs, they don't want to really take the best care of their health. They want to kind of find comfort in food and alcohol, so now that they've gained all the weight back, now they're coming back to me. But can't remember what I was saying. Went on a tangent.
I think it was maybe the mindset of the giving up what you want most, right. So not choosing what you want most right now for what you really want long-term, the kind of instant gratification. I think you were talking about that. Yeah. Most of that instant gratification, I mean, that is right, like our human behavior. But I think living in the society that we're living in today has just magnified it. I mean, out of control, because my own kids ask me for something and they're like, Mama, just get it on Amazon. I'm like, okay, Amazon is not some magical, yes, the truck comes most days and that we can get most things there, but it is not this magical drop it in your lap. They don't even think probably that I have to pay for it. I do it on my phone. They're not seeing any money exchange. And it's just, I think we're raising kids on instant gratification, first of all. And I think as adults, if you're younger than 50, I would say you've probably grown up in that more instant gratification type of society. So what do we do if we want it? Why can't we have it? If you want it now, just get it. And if it's not a financial constraint to do so, most people can get exactly what they want very quickly. And so we kind of lose touch with what it means to hunger, honestly. What does it feel like to want and to feel a little, even I think eating and filling ourselves, we're just not in touch with letting ourselves feel a little empty, let your digestion empty before you put more food. But we're just in a constant state of consumption, whether it's news, media, anything. We're in a constant state of consumption.
I know one of my coaches, my mindset coach who I worked with many years ago, one of the first things she said was, hunger is not an emergency. And actually, none of us have ever experienced starvation. Generally, if anybody's listening to this podcast, or anybody who's actually paying somebody to help them with their health, sometimes they'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm so starving. No, you're not. And then another thing my coach used to say was, we all a few meals ahead. And she never meant it in a insulting way. But the truth is, we are all a few meals ahead. We all have enough reserves in our body. What's that rule of threes? You can survive 3 days without water, three minutes without oxygen, and 3 weeks without food. Most people, some people can go a lot longer. But I think it's just, instant gratification. Constantly, we can have whatever we want, whenever we want to have it. And I think also what happens is, by the time the weight loss creeps up, I don't want clients who have only a couple of pounds to lose. It's actually the hardest, because it's the hardest to lose. Clients who've got more weight to lose they only realize that it's not. It's kind of all of a sudden you're oh my gosh, I've put on 10 to 20 pounds. It's kind of more, oh, wow, this has happened. They don't acknowledge how long it's taken to put that weight on. Mm-hmm. And then they want it to be gone in 3 minutes. So it's one unhealthy meal won't make you unhealthy, and one healthy meal won't make you healthy. It's you kind of have to look at the journey and how long it does take. And I think that's also why behavior mindset is kind of where you have to be every single day, and why why change does feel hard is because we have to go against the patterns of behavior we've been consistently practicing up until this point.
Yes. And those patterns and behaviors are what got us there. And, if we want a different result, we must change. We must change the process that got us to the undesired result in the first place. And
it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen overnight.
No, and finding grace through the process and patience. But this is where I think, the coaching comes into play, because like we said in the beginning, anybody can get a diet plan, or you can even give somebody a write-up on mindset. But I bet what you do really well with your clients is you kind of, yes, coach them through the diet or the, nutrition piece of it. This is the best foods to eat, but you're also their accountability for shifting and maintaining their mindset portion of it. Could you share a little bit about like your favorite strategies for doing that, or what do you find most beneficial as far as keeping your clients' mindset positive when they're going through whatever specific challenges or goals they're trying to get?
So I will say that my clients come back to me not to know anymore, because yes, I'm constantly learning. So I'm constantly learning more about our body and listening to things and listening to podcasts and, kind of adopting different strategies. But the foundations of what I teach from a nutrition point of view for 95% of my clients is the same. Mm-hmm. It's the same. They come back to me for the support and accountability of getting them to stay aware and connected to why they want to change. Because in that moment, it's so easy to disconnect, because so much of our behavior, Joe Dispenza actually says by the time we're 35 years old, 95% of our behavior is programmed like a computer. So when you want to create a change, there's 5% of you that wants to change against 95% of you that's so used to almost unconsciously repeating this stuff. So it's like, what do I do with my clients? It's like journaling. I mean, I go on and on about journaling, and it doesn't have to be hours and hours of journaling. It just has to be, I basically have 3 questions that I reflect on every morning. So I practice gratitude. So a couple of things that I'm grateful for. And you get specific. You can't be like, I'm grateful for my health. You can be, but like, what is it? Like, what are you grateful for? Like, because I think, as you say, being grateful every single day and acknowledging what we have, instead of kind of looking in the mirror and saying, you've done it again, why can't you do this? It's like, hang on, like I have, a body that allows me to go to work. I have, I've just lost X amount of pounds, or I've got, I'm grateful that I've got the ability to be able to work from home and to coach people online all over the world, and to be able to keep in touch with my nephews because they live in England. And I'm grateful for beautiful sunshine in my home, so I do practice gratitude. And then I ask myself, what went well yesterday? I think it's really important that we reinforce every little win, because we must celebrate every win. I think it's really important that we acknowledge that change is hard and we don't have to be perfect all the time. Perfection is a standard that doesn't exist. It's all about kind of consistently choosing the patterns that move us closer, because every single choice either moves us closer or further away, because that's the truth. So what went well yesterday? And then I kind of also want to say, like, what can I improve on today? So, if yesterday I kind of set the intention that I was going to have 3 meals, and if I was hungry, have a snack, and I decided to have, a bottle of wine or whatever it might be, then it's like, what can I improve on? Because I do believe that any improvement we make is still an improvement. It's not, I think we can kid ourselves into getting into the all or nothing mindset, which sets us up for failure. It does. Mm-hmm. My coach used to say, even if you have 10 donuts for breakfast, you can still make a great lunch choice. It's not like I had 10 donuts for breakfast and now, I've ruined the day. It's like next choice, best choice. So with my clients, it's very much about acknowledge what you've done, but don't stay there. Mm-hmm. Because there's no power in changing yesterday. It doesn't matter that where we are today is an accumulation of every single choice that we've made. And as you said earlier, if you want a different outcome, you've got to change your behavior. So with my clients, it is definitely about, setting your intention for the day. And also there's this saying about don't overcommit and under-deliver. Rather undercommit and over-deliver. But obviously, you know yourself. You can't be like, oh, well, my commitments for today is that I'm going to, eat my breakfast smoothie. Well, yes, but I mean, what else? We have to get realistic. It's about honesty. I think we have to be honest. We
with
have
ourselves,
to be honest. Like,
which can be the hardest people to be honest.
That's why I have my own coaches to keep me accountable, because, I have to say, I know what to do. We know what to do. Yeah. We coach people, but we are also human, and we also know our own triggers, which is why we have to kind of set our intentions for the day of what are the things that are going to, move us that much closer towards our goals. And that's kind of what I do with my clients. And everyone will say to me, I'm so much more aware, because it's almost like you say the same things every single day, but you have to, because we have to parent ourselves every single day, because things don't happen by chance. Right. They happen, through
or even by
intention.
No wishes. There's no wishing. Oh, I just wish I could be 10 pounds lighter, and I think I'll, have a salad today for lunch. But I think the journaling part is such a huge way to shift things, because like you said, not only is the person, they have to think it, right? So they have to come up with the positive thought or the intention, but now they're writing it. The next day they're reinforcing it. And like you said, you have to change the 95% of the already programmed part of you that's going to do the other things that you're trying not to do. So how do you get that 5% to overpower the 95? And it sounds like one of your specific ways to do that with your clients is journaling. And I think that's a great tool.
You have to start to rewire your brain to change those patterns of behavior, because we all know what we're not supposed to do. And it's easy to be like, yeah, I know, and I'll do it, but we don't do it. And when you start to do it and you start to practice it, it's all just about practice, and it's all about consistency. So, I think journaling, and also, committing to just 1 or 2 or 3 things that you're going to commit to in that day, and getting those things done, first. And I think committing without exception is my other kind of foundation. So we don't have to worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow is going to come regardless. Just like yesterday, we can't change. It's all about committing to today. So if I decide, for example, one of my goals, yesterday we hit 60 days to the end of the year. In August, I posted it was 100 days to go. And I was like, my goal for the end of 2021 to pick one thing is to finish IHP level 2. I'm just over halfway. I'm on the Omega module, which is exciting. But I've got 3 to go, and my sister's driving from the UK. But so then what does that take? And one thing for me is, I do drink alcohol. I don't drink a lot of alcohol. I enjoy alcohol on social occasions. But as we know, it's very easy to open a bottle of wine and enjoy it. But for me personally, it depletes my energy. I don't sleep as well. So breaking down my goal into how I'm going to achieve IHP is through, number 1, I don't drink on my own. So it's not that I don't drink, but I don't drink on my own. That's kind of one of my action steps. So in that day, in my journal, I'll be like, no alcohol today. So if somebody if I had a really bad day, that happened, I'm a human, or I wanted to have a drink, I'd be like, it kind of like keeps you present in the day, and you're like, not today. Tomorrow's another day, not today. If I was with somebody, it would be different. But, you have to make those commitments to yourself. And there's another saying that says, if you do anything, never break a promise to yourself. I think that's really important, just for today, because tomorrow's going to come anyway. So, I do no drinking on my own, and I meditate every single day, and I journal every day, and I do my 10,000 steps a day. Like, those are like my kind of, top things that I'm kind of getting through. And it might seem obvious and it might seem easy, but just kind of committing to those things each day gets you kind of closer. And then if you do your 14 hours a week of IHP, so 2 hours a day in isolation doesn't get you very far, but 14 hours, it's like you start with one push-up a day doesn't seem like a lot, 10 a day doesn't seem like a lot, but it's like 300 in the month. So, breaking them down into small actionable steps that are realistic and sustainable and maintainable is really important.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think such all great and inspiring points, whether it's an IHP listening to how to help their own clients with mindset, or somebody who's listening that's, needing to work on their own mindset and kind of their motivation. I think it's all been so helpful. Can you share with our listeners where they can find you on social media or websites, kind of any places that you can be found?
Yeah, sure. So I love Instagram. I'm still quite a newbie on, having too many platforms. I think at this stage, I just try and keep my social presence to Instagram. I do have a Facebook business page as well, so you can find me at Lauren Davies Wellness. I love to connect with all IHPs. There are a couple of us in South Africa, which is really, really exciting. And I'm hoping to get to Boston at some point to that's where all my gurus tend to hang out. And I've obviously become quite close to quite a few of our IHP, fellow practitioners just over the time that I've been here. But yeah, please connect with me at Lauren Davies Wellness. I actually chatted to another IHP level 2 today. She's in Australia. So it's just amazing to have calls with people and to connect with people and to buddy up with people. And that's how we learn from each other. So it's a really, really exciting space to be. And I just love all things health and wellness and mindset. Mindset is big. I need to get better at posting content, but, I'll get there. We'll all get there. I think another saying that I love is, when I was approached to be on the podcast, I kind of thought, well, do I know enough? Am I enough? Am I further enough in my business? But I launched my business in 2019. I've run about 15 online groups with my online elimination program. I've worked with about 300 people. So that might seem like tiny in comparison to IHP2s that I look up to, who are, doing reels every day and online every day. And they've, worked with so many thousands of people, and they kind of tend to know everything. But I think to any IHP who's still listening, who's in the process, we are always learning. And it might look like the outside that we know so much, but I think even Branka and I said today, when she's finished level 2, the more you learn, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know, and the more you want to know. And I just, I could just kind of study and study for hours, but I think, to be a little bit humble and to know that we don't know it all. We don't need to know it all. Mm-mm. But there are so many people that we can support. And if I can just change one person's life, now and then, I think that's such a blessing. And just to be able to pass the information on and to learn from people like Dr. Cabral and from our whole community, who all we want to do is share what we do and to teach, a health coach in every home is just, I'm just so grateful to be in this space. So please connect with me. And I look forward to many more years of being connected to all of you as well.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, the point about being, am I enough? Do I know enough? You know enough to help somebody else who doesn't know as much as you. And that's always what I say. Even if someone who knows half as much as you might know more than somebody who knows absolutely nothing. And so they're still going to be able to help. And so we're always the expert based on the person that we're helping. And do you have more to know? Yes. Is that okay? Absolutely. I mean, we're in a field that's always changing. And so we're always learning. Totally. And but the truth is we can always be of help and service to people who know less than us. And so even though we could have more to know, we still know more than the people that need to learn from us. And so that's, I think, always what's important to keep in mind.
And I think that can be quite daunting in some ways, where we don't know, but ultimately the only way we learn is through starting, through application. Mm-hmm. And Absolutely. Through, like trial and error. There are the foundations, but not everything's going to work for everybody. But we get to, understand how things work. And, as Dr. Ball's worked with, 500,000 people or 250 or 300, I think he's quoted 250 for quite a long time. It's probably more than that. That's how you learn, through just working with people and through application of putting it into practice. So, and I think it's okay to be able to say to somebody I don't know, and I'll find out. So I've got somebody who came to me with, an autoimmune condition. So yes, I understand the foundations of inflammatory driven conditions. But for me right now, it's not my specialty. My specialty is weight loss and mindset, behavioral change, and kind of the more basic foundational stuff where I know I can help people get results that they need. But the beauty with our community is that, I can refer them to people who are more involved in that, or who are already functional medicine testers, or, those kinds of things. So I think it's okay to be like, we don't have to know.
Yes.
I'd rather say I don't know, or I can find out for you, than to kind of be in a space where you can't help people. But we, as you say, there's so many people that we can help, and we need to start somewhere. We all need to start somewhere. Yes. So that's the really empowering part.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast. This was such a pleasure. And I am really happy with what we got to our listeners today. Thank you so much for being here.
Julia, thank you so much. It's been so great. And I look forward to seeing you on Instagram. Oh, and I forgot to tell you that I made your crumble.
Oh, did you?
Posted, yeah. And I used black sweet cherries and blueberries and whole rolled oats mixed with coconut oil. Delicious. It's like a breakfast or a dessert. It's fantastic.
Yes. Oh, good. I'm glad you made it and enjoyed it.
Yeah.
More to come.
Thank you so much. I can't wait.
Okay. So nice talking to you. We'll be in touch soon.
And you too. We'll chat soon. Thank you.
Okay. Bye, Lauren.
Okay. Bye.